Hey, this is Kelly Wong from the Wong Way Street Podcast. Today we are in Long Island, New York, and we are in front of a sewing shop called Wakes and Waves. I'll be interviewing Anthony Capellupo, who owns Wakes and Waves, and he has such an incredible journey that I know you'll find interesting. Welcome, Anthony, to the Wong Way Street Podcast. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I just wanted to talk about actually how I met you. We met at the Long Beach Craft Show, and I remember I was taking a break and I was walking past your pop-up, your setup. It was just so inviting. I felt like I was actually going into a store. Just the colors of your apparel, I felt your material, and it was just so soft. I felt like it was something that I wanted to sleep in. The bags were just so inviting. And that sold itself on its own. But when I heard your story, your background story, it took it to another level, because I appreciated what it took for you to bring this product to the public. And I just admire you so much for what you did with it. So I want to go back to your original story of how you got it started, because for this podcast, I talk a lot about how, growing up, we were all taught to lead a certain path. And sometimes that path doesn't always go that way. Sometimes we veer off. And it's challenging to go down that path. It takes courage to do that. So I want to go back with you. You grew up here in Long Island.
Yeah, I grew up on Long Island. I love it here. The water has always been a calling for me, and I've called it home for 23 years now.
You went to college. You went to Fairfield. Yep. And from there, what was the path that was directed to you?
So I'll backtrack a little bit. I went to Chaminade High School, which was a great education. But the outcome for, I would say, 90% of the students were doctor, lawyer, banker, definitely corporate. And I studied economics at Fairfield. Banking, markets, all things like that are a true passion of mine. And then I landed an internship working in the city for an asset manager. And, I ran our college investment fund. And I slowly began to feel that, hey, maybe this isn't for me. Mm-hmm. I said, but how can I combine my passions, my love for the water, my love for markets, my love for business and creativity, and honestly love for a challenge altogether. And, on my train ride home one day, I just said, I don't think this is for me. And slowly but surely, put one foot in front of the other.
So when you started to think about your vision for this, you have no history of family business, you have no teaching of putting a business together, starting an apparel company. So what was your vision when you decided, you know what, I can't take the train every single day down to Wall Street and do that grind?
People always love to ask me why apparel, why accessories. Mm-hmm. And to me, it is a visual embodiment of things you like to do, values, things you believe in, things you stand for. And so I said, okay, I know I want a brand. Okay. And then I said, well, what do I want the brand to stand for? And I knew that I could build something based on a set of values that I would hope a certain group of the population, locals, islanders, water lovers would subscribe to. And it kind of went from, well, okay, you need something to wear. You can't walk around with nothing. So you need something to wear. And I kind of have a vision for something simplistic, minimalist, but uniquely crafted in mind. And slowly, small designs became bigger sketches, and bigger sketches became bigger ideas, and bigger ideas became our first products.
And so I think a very important thing to note is that you sew, and you learned how to sew.
I do.
But you learned to sew actually at a later age. So tell me about that process.
Well, two things. I do sew, and I am a guy, which is completely weird for some people. But I jokingly say some of the greatest designers were men. Mm-hmm. So people always laugh at that one. But I learned from my grandmother, and it kind of started with solving a problem for the business, you know. And we originally started with tees, hoodies, and hats. And I said to myself, this is kind of boring. I wanted to really begin to embrace the creativity. And we were such a small, not even brand thing at the time, that I had no money, I had almost no knowledge, and I had no one to turn to. And I knew my grandmother knew how to sew, so I said, hey, Graham, can you teach me how to sew? And she goes, oh, what are you, crazy? What do you want to know how to sew for? And I said, I think we could start bringing some products to life. And she says, yeah, if you think you can do it, I'll teach you how to sew. So one day I ordered a machine, and it came, and here we are, sitting at my dining room table, just with straight stitches, and teaching me all the terminology, the bobbin, the thread, the presser foot, all this. And for some weird reason, something deep inside me told me this is the way to go. And I wasn't sure where it would take us, but slowly but surely, the first stitches became an idea for a bigger vision of something local made.
And I know from firsthand, because my mother knows how to sew, and I've tried it. I've tried sitting in a machine, threading it, doing different stitches, and it is extremely challenging. So I didn't have the tenacity or the patience to learn it. Did you find that it came easy to you?
After I learned how to thread the machine, yeah. The tougher thing was for me was learning how to thread the machine and, you know, getting your tension right and your thread right and your needle size and everything. But like with anything, the more you do it, the more adept you get at it. And I've always been good with building things.
Okay.
And crafting, sewing, designing for me is just another form of building.
Yeah.
You know, seeing something come from nothing, from flat rolls of fabric to then eventually coming together into products.
Right. And I think we usually find out later in life, just we reflect back to our ancestors. So in this case, your grandmother. What are some of the values or lessons you learned from her that you carry with you now in your new business?
Patience and kindness.
Yeah.
It's that come to my mind right away. Grandma runs a tight ship, don't get me wrong, you know, because she wants the best, but patience and kindness. You know, if she spends her days when she's not helping me, you know, volunteering at our local food pantry, and I say to myself, I could be half the person she is. You know, today you know, it'd be great.
Yeah, that's so heartwarming. And when you started this whole vision, I want to talk about your creativity, because you talked about how creative you are and you're very hands-on. So what was your vision for the brand of Wakes and Waves?
Something industrial, like rustic, simplistic, but yet home-like feeling, you know, where it was real. You know, it's easy to go to the local lumber yard and, you know, say, hey, give me 42 by 4s and mahogany and whatever, and then, you know, stain it and put on some nice dock cleats you buy online, you know, from West Marine or wherever. But for me, I look for the authentic, the real, the true. So I'll find broken driftwood. I'll find broken down shipping pallets. I'll find old docks, you know, from marinas that I'll get in touch with. They'll be, hey, you got anything laying around? And I'll pick it up. To me, there's very much a beauty in that resourcefulness because it's real. Yeah. It makes you feel connected. You know, to me, there's nothing worse than going into a store and feeling, hey, this is totally staged. When you go to the beach, you see the broken shells on the sand. You see the worn down driftwood. You see the signage that's been sun beaten. To me, that makes you feel like you're home. Mm-hmm. That makes you feel that you're connected to the shores you walk.
And that's exactly how I felt when I walked into your pop-up. And I felt comfortable. I felt home. Like I just wanted to live here. Like it just felt so authentic. So you definitely carried that through your line.
To me, there are designs that are bought, and then there are designs that are made. You know, and you have to just make the design. You have a blank canvas. Some people paint paintings. Some people draw drawings. You know, I sew, I build, I create. You know, it's just a different medium.
And when you first started selling, So you started with a few items.
Mm-hmm.
I believe you sold bags,
Yep.
you sold apparel.
Yep.
Did you have this fear like no one would buy your items? Like what was going through?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'll say that with my whole out of the box path, I was so nervous. What is the industry standard? You know, what are the big guys doing? And I'll say this: when you're totally out of the box, there's a beauty in that, because you're not following. You're almost leading in its own way.
Yeah.
Because you have no idea where you're going to take it, and what might be wrong to the industry is right to the customer. And that's something very different and something very unique, in the sense that when you look to pioneer, you're not looking to do what's been done before. You take that route of, well, let me just put it together and see what comes of it. And that's the same thing with quality and whatever. But in terms of people buying the product, absolutely. You say to yourself, okay, 1, can I build it? Yes. 2, how does it look? Good. Is the quality there? Yes. Then it's like, can I get someone to actually open their wallet for their hard-earned money and give me their money? And, totally a fear. But, I will say, when you get creative and when you think outside the box, and people want unique, they want new, they want something that has an affinity and a welcoming feel to it, all backed by objective quality, and then, subjective, branding as well that people value, that matters. And then it makes selling the product easier. Our first products down on the Long Beach boardwalk, I think I went in with like 20 bags and a handful of tees and a handful of hoodies and some hats. And we sold out.
Wow.
On like that bright Saturday, random day in the summer. And I looked at my mom, who was helping me for the day, and I said, Mom, what are we going to do? I said, what do we do tomorrow? That was when I knew we might have been onto something.
Yeah.
So.
And from there, you just continued with your pop-ups.
Absolutely.
Being in person.
There's a real beauty in meeting real people.
Yes.
Finding the organic growth, meeting real faces where they're not just customers. They're fans, they're followers, they're your inspiration, they're friends.
Yes.
And that matters to me. It's very easy, I think, to mass market on TikTok, to mass market on other social media platforms, but to me, branding is about building apostles. Apostles for what you do, the values you stand for, and they're your real marketers. Of course, you have to stay top of mind in certain ways and connect with them, in your market, and all things like that. But deep roots take time, and to me, there's nothing more than deep roots than with real people in real places.
Yeah. And I'm sure being in front of everybody, they're kind of like a focus group. So you find out what they like, what colors they like, what interests them, and it helps you kind of develop your next line.
Absolutely. Feedback matters to me. Some people have completely unrealistic expectations.
Absolutely.
Whether it be price, this is too expensive, this is too cheap, can you do this? Can I have 40 zippers in this big? No, you can't. But maybe we can do 3, or 2, or something like that. So it's about finding balance. But I will say that the feedback is awesome. In helping me plan future products, product lines, and directions for the business. Some people say, hey, stay online.
Right.
Some people say, hey, I want a physical presence. Some people say, hey, come, leave Long Island. Come here, bring the brand here. So it's all a give and take in how we continue to paint the canvas, as we say.
Absolutely. And I think you and I discussed how entrepreneurship just gives you highs and lows, peaks and valleys, and it's not easy. What have now you're into this 3 years now?
3 years.
3 years. What have been your challenges as well as the highs of this?
Challenges, no doubt, are many. No day's ever the same. Obviously, scalability for fully fulfilling your demand. finding great people to work, looking for uncontested market space where you don't have to work as hard to deliver the perfect product. You can deliver a great product, but it doesn't have to be perfect, and people love it. Finding the blue water that's uncontested, as I say, which I'm very fortunate I've done, and we've met amazing people and work each day, to do that. Challenges, I'd say, is, your mental space as well.
Yeah.
How about yourself? And I say to myself, a lot of people don't take breaks. They work really hard. You face burnout.
Yeah.
I know I've burned myself out trying to work 80 hours a week. You just can't do that.
Right.
You just can't do that and be at the top of your game. And I think that a big thing is got to keep your blinders on. You have to create from within and not try to follow. In the beginning, cash flow, I had no money. When you start, you have nothing. And slowly but surely, right, the profit keeps going back into the bottom line, and slowly, the more money you make, it's easy to keep making more money, but the beginning is an absolute fight. You have to claw through, and, you mentioned the displays and everything, and what a lot of people don't know is that when you have no money and you don't have a lot of resources early on, what do? You have to get creative. So I said to myself, if I had all the money in the world, I would have bought the nicest, most sparkling displays and whatever, and it would have totally changed the brand and everything we stand for and everything, whatever. But now I look back and I say, well, that's exactly it all kind of worked out, because I knew that I began learning the garbage route in our town, in the local industrial area, when they would throw out all the broken shipping pallets late at night.
Gosh.
So I would slowly load them into my car, and then I would bring them home and bust them apart and find the pieces I wanted and whatever. And I knew that from fishing on the water all my years, that after a lot of storms, you would get awesome things that would come up on the surf. So I'd bring a little wagon down to the beach, and I'd load up the wagon, and I'd find buoys and dock cleats and driftwood, and slowly but surely, all this junk slowly became crafted in a way where we had a very cool look for the brand. So bootstrapping in and definitely, fighting through that early stage helped make us who we are. And that doesn't mean that we're still not, doing it now. I mean, every person, every growing business has its stresses, and how much do you spend on this, how much do you spend on that, how do you maximize the cash flow and, keep expanding at a rapid rate.
Yeah.
What investments do you make, what investments don't you make?
And it reminds me of that quote, it's not about your resources, it's how resourceful you are. And that just reminds me of what you had just said. And going back to the beginning, when you had no money, did you not want to ask for help from your parents because you were going off the path of Wall Street? You were taking a big risk. Like, were you so determined to just do this on your own without any help?
Yes.
Okay.
And I will say I wanted to prove it to myself that I could do it. I wanted to prove it to them that after all the hard work and investment they made in me, my education, everything, that I could do it. And I also knew I needed to prove the concept. I said there's nothing worse than a business that doesn't make money.
Yeah.
The products, the product line, how it's delivered has to be able to make money. So to me, to just ask my parents, ask a family member, take on a large investment, get a business loan, I was just like, it just doesn't feel right. Like I want to prove the concept, and that mattered to me. Because what do you do then if it doesn't work? So you just started on a really, really small scale.
Yeah.
And one thing into another.
And your journey from Wall Street, you had a significant transformation. So how has this transformed you personally?
I mean, that is a loaded question.
Okay.
I am fortunate enough, I get to meet people from all walks of life, in all different places, from all different areas, and it changes your perspective on things.
Yeah.
You see the beauty and difference, but you also see that there's tremendous similarity. And that's one of the cool parts of my job, is that you get that wide breadth of all that experience. You can look at it from the lens of that you grow as a person, right? You find what you really do like. If money was the end goal today, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
Okay.
Right? You find that passion and purpose is matters. And I always say that our passion guides our profit, not our profit guides our passion.
Love that.
Because to me, that's what really matters. I always say we always can make more money.
Yep.
You always can sell more product, but you can't change that passion, and that should be the bedrock, because I genuinely can put my head on the pillow and say I love what I do every day. No matter how hard it is, no matter how hard of a day I've had, I love what I do.
And I think your customers appreciate that. They appreciate your passion. They appreciate where you started from, what you brought it to. I'm sure that when you tell people that you sew, the response is a different response than just walking in your store, touching your product. But when they find out that you actually sew, you learned from your grandmother, what has that response been most of the time?
I mean, people love it,
Yeah.
but honestly, like, there's not much else to it. That's the story,
Yeah.
Like, I mean, people say, no way, no. I'm like, yeah, that's just how it all happened. It wasn't planned, it was just how it all slowly unfolded. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. You ask, as I grow older, I mean, who else would you want to learn from?
Right.
Right? What I mean? You're going to look back and say, I learned from my grandmother. That matters to me.
Absolutely.
So.
It matters to future generations. It matters. You're inspiring others that, your family lineage is something that's important to you and that you were able to learn from. So moving forward with Wakes and Waves, what is the future look like for you?
So that's like a loaded question. But you already know I do this full time.
Yes.
Obviously continue scaling the business, new product lines, more machines, new markets, all things like that. And maybe we will have a retail space soon. I will not speak more on that for now.
It's okay to envision what it could be.
I'll say keep your eyes out in the near future. But, with that also comes, how does that change the business?
Yeah.
How does that affect costs, pricing? Is that the right way to go? I have tons of customers who say to me, stay online. I have tons of people who say to me, hey, you got to open a store. This is too good not to open a store. So I would say definitely there are a lot of things in the plans to begin to keep taking the brand to new heights, whether it's off Long Island, all through Long Island, building deeper roots here, and continuing to deliver the same quality, passion, reasonable prices, and values that we do every day.
And knowing what you know now, what you've built over the years, what would you say to the younger version of Anthony?
I would definitely say, I'm glad you've already gone this far. Trust your instincts.
Yep.
Trust your gut. If it doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel right. If you feel you shouldn't do business with this person, don't do business. Be you. Be authentic. If I've learned one thing, being authentic and who you are is inimitable. If you're funny, be funny. If you're serious, be serious. Because no one can imitate that. And in a world of many brands, in a world of crowded market spaces where barriers to entry are getting easier, to me the greatest challenge to incumbency is being you, pioneering, and doing it how you want to do it. Because all things change. I would tell my younger self to work hard, work smart, but enjoy it.
Yeah.
For a while, early on, I worked like a dog, where I would never take breaks, and I'd say you just got to grind it through. And now I say to myself, of course we're still grinding, of course we're still in the trenches every day, working a lot, but can we do it differently in a way where the outcome, the return on the investment, is even greater than what we're putting in now.
And what if there's someone out there that has a lot of fear in taking that leap to start their dream, start their vision?
Well,
what do you say to that?
if you weren't afraid, I would say
There's something
you're in
wrong
the
with
wrong
you.
place. Fear is a good equalizer. It keeps you grounded. But fear can also be debilitating in the sense that if you let that dominate, you will never find the opportunity. So I will say use fear in the sense of realism and being realistic and staying grounded. Prove yourself wrong. Prove that fear wrong. You know, the only way to conquer fear is to run down the obstacle.
Yeah.
So you have to do it.
Yeah.
To me, it is better to try and fail than fail by not trying.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what I would tell my younger self, or tell someone who is looking to do something like that.
I just want to thank you so much for this time, because I just think you're just so inspiring. The fact that you started from nothing, you are so authentic, you took a leap of faith, and you trusted your vision, you trusted your creativity to be able to build something. And not a lot of people are willing to take that leap at a very young age.
Yeah, you know, and I will say that the vision is only 10% complete, 20% complete. You know, it's what you want to make it, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
If you want the journey to end here, it can end here. If
Sure.
you want to take it to however many million miles, you can do that too. But enjoy the ride. And, you know, if I say one thing, just ride your wave. That's it.
Just
you know?
like on your hoodie.
So.
Well, I know you're going to be extremely successful. I have no doubt about that. And I just can't wait to see what your journey is going to look like. Can you share with our viewers and listeners, where can we find your products? Where can we find your journey?
Absolutely. You can follow us on Instagram at wakesandwaves.co.
Okay.
You can shop online at www.wakesandwaves.co, or you can come shop in person all around Long Island. For now, at our traveling pop-up shop, we have the dates listed on our homepage and on Instagram all the time. And you know, you can check out the journey, you know, on our website, on Instagram, all things like that.
Yeah,
So.
great. Well, thank you so much again. We'll leave all the links in our show notes, and thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you on the next episode.